UFC 309 is over. Jon Jones finishes Stipe Miocic in the third round by spinning back kick, KO, TKO victory, which was a very impressive knockout. But we all saw this coming. And I don't want to hate on Jon Jones immediately, especially after his win. I do want to praise him. He did look good in the first round, and the knockout was impressive. And he was setting Stipe up all night with that. And he threw the spinning back kick a couple of times in the night. However, Stipe is 100 years old. He hasn't fought in 4 years, hasn't won in 5 years. And I think people are forgetting this. When Stipe fought DC in 2020, that fight was kind of showcased as like the last great fight between two GOAT heavyweights, DC and Stipe. And at that time, in 2020, we all thought, man, Stipe is going to retire if he wins, DC is going to retire if he's going to win, and the heavyweight's going to be vacant. And it doesn't happen. Stipe is like, why would I retire? You know, I never said I would retire. And in 2020, Stipe didn't look as bad as he did now, but he did look old, and he looked slow, and he just wasn't obviously what he was when he was younger. Now, you fast forward to 5 years to now, and it is bad. I mean, Stipe didn't look absolutely terrible against Francis. I mean, he got brutally knocked out, but like, he didn't look as bad. Jon Jones not just humiliated Stipe, but he had elder abuse against him. I mean, Stipe was slow. His reactions to everything was bad. In the first round, Jon Jones hit a Sotogari takedown against Stipe, which was very impressive. You don't ever see that in an MMA fight, I feel like, but very impressive takedown. Takes him down, and for 3 minutes, Stipe is just brutally beat up. Now, I will say, Stipe is a huge heavyweight. He looked good. I was actually surprised Stipe didn't get cut open as much as he did in the first round, because literally for 3 minutes, Jon Jones just went ham on him with elbows and hammer fists. And I was kind of surprised. Maybe Jon Jones has some like fucking weak elbows or something. I don't know. Stipe had like a tiny scratch on his cheek after the end of the first round after getting beat up. But Stipe looked terrible. He looked old. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Jon Jones. Like, yes, he is the GOAT. But, dude, like, it's like nobody wanted this fight. And after watching this fight, and I rewatched it now a couple of times this morning, the fact that Dana was like, oh, we've got to give Stipe this fight. Like, man, if we don't give Stipe this fight, people are going to riot. People are going to be upset. Like, what? Stipe is 100 years old. We all saw this coming. And, yes, Stipe had a couple of shots against Jon Jones that looked good. But other than that, like, he got beat up the entire time. The entire time. And I'm not trying to, like, shit on Jon Jones right after his win, but Jon didn't really look that great besides the first round and the knockout. I mean, there was a couple of times where Stipe hit Jon, and you're like, oh, that was Tom Aspinall? Jon might have been knocked out. There was a couple of times where Jon Jones landed a great jab or, like, a 2 down the middle, and he would, like, overextend and stay there for a second, and Stipe would come back with like an uppercut or a left hook, and Jon's like getting like hit, and then they like clinch up, and you're like, oh shit. Like, if that was Tom Aspinall, if Tom Aspinall hit Jon Jones with an uppercut, Jon isn't going to just like stand there and or like just be fine. He's either going to drop to the ground from the power, or he's moving back, and by the time he's moving back, Tom Aspinall is already going for the takedown. Stipe landed 37 total significant strikes in the fight. Jon Jones landed 96. This was a clear one-sided fight. Jon Jones just beat up an old man. I will say this. Jon Jones, the one thing I do like, especially his technique, his defensive striking technique, is when he is retreating back and Stipe was pushing him forward, Jon Jones would do this like long guard defensive striking where he's keeping one hand up to protect himself from the hooks and the other hand out to keep reach. And as he's moving back, switching feet, switching his stance, he's switching his guard up top, and it prevents Stipe from just like bum rushing him, throwing hooks, and, you know, potentially knocking out Jon Jones. That is one thing I will say. Jon Jones's technique, defensive striking technique, is very impressive. But he beat up Stipe the entire time. Literally throwing a ton of front kicks, a ton of roundhouse kicks, setting up the roundhouse kick in the first round, takes him down, beats him up. Second round, Jon Jones, he actually threw a couple of spinning back kicks, but nothing landed. They weren't going to be anything crazy. Threw a lot of roundhouse kicks, which ate up the body of Stipe. And then in the final round, Jon Jones threw a roundhouse kick. As he plants, then he throws a spinning back kick, hits Stipe in the side. Stipe drops, hammer fist. That was the end of the fight. I will say the commentary is terrible. I am so tired of Joe Rogan just praising Jon Jones for everything and then bringing up fights from 10 years ago. Y'all must have forgot. When Jon Jones defeated Shogun, when Jon Jones defeated Lyoto Machida, it's like, Joe, those fights were 10 years ago. Let's talk about Jon Jones's like recent fights. Like, besides the Cyril Gane fight, Jon Jones's last 9 fights were decision wins, and they weren't unanimous decision wins. They were split decision wins, right? Dominic Reyes arguably beat Jon Jones. The Thiago Santos fight, pretty close fight. Yeah, Thiago Santos blew out both his knees and still made it competitive. The Anthony Smith fight, which was just a boring fight. Jon is just not the guy he used to be, and that's okay. He's older. He's been in the fight game forever, but for us to praise him like he's the same fighter as he was when he fought Shogun is just delusional. And we do this all the time. Like, oh, this is what pissed me off. Joe Rogan brought up, Stipe Miocic, or it might have been DC. He is Jon Jones' toughest test. He has everything. He has the boxing. He has the defensive wrestling. Man, he's a tough test. He's the toughest test for Jon Jones in the heavyweight division. No, I would argue Cyril Gane was a harder fight for Jon Jones than Stipe. But second of all, are we forgetting about Tom Aspinall, the defending interim champion? And the fact that we're like, Joe Rogan is so blinded by today. Like, he's such a casual. It actually makes me mad. So in the post-fight speech, Jon Jones wins. He's praising. He goes, talks about Jesus, talks about Trump, all that good stuff. And Joe Rogan asked him, what's next for you? Do you want to have a super fight against Alex Pereira? Do you want to fight Tom Aspinall? Joe, Dana White has clearly said multiple times, whoever wins this fight is fighting the defending interim heavyweight champion, which is Tom Aspinall. Why the fuck are you bringing up Alex Pereira? Like, what are you doing, man? Joe Rogan is just so out of touch, and it makes me mad because it's like, bro, people want to see Tom Aspinall. In my lifetime, I've religiously been watching UFC probably since like 2018, right? 2019, every single card, right? And I can honestly say Tom Aspinall is probably, in my era of watching UFC, is the most interesting heavyweight fighter I've ever seen. He is just so dominant. He pressures everybody. He finishes everybody. He is a force I've never seen before. Here's a little fun stat for people that love Tom Aspinall. Throughout 9 UFC fights, Tom Aspinall has spent less time in the cage, which is 13 minutes, 21 seconds, than the entire Jon Jones for Stipe fight, which was 14 minutes, 29 seconds. Do you understand how crazy that is? Through 9 UFC fights, Tom Aspinall has finished his opponents quicker and fought in a shorter time than Jon Jones versus Stipe fight entire duration. That is insane. And Joe Rogan's bringing up, so John, do you want to fight Alex Pereira next as a super fight? People would love to see that. People would love to see you stand up with Alex Pereira for 30 seconds and then take him down and submit him. And we were all wondering, why did we pay $80 for this fight? We knew what was going to happen. Jon Jones, yes, he's the GOAT, but he needs to retire because if you're not going to fight Tom Aspinall, I don't want to see you fight any other fight. I don't really care. And the fact that Jon Jones took 3 years off. Jon Jones took 3 years off to build up to heavyweight. Didn't fight Francis. Fought Cyril Gane. Beat Cyril Gane. Then took a year off because he got injured to fight Stipe. And now wants to move back down to light heavyweight to fight Alex Pereira. Like, bro. Like, he just wastes everybody's time. And he holds up the division. He holds up the UFC. He wastes the UFC's time and, likes to take PEDs and have cards fall through. Like, it's just insane to me. Yes, Jon Jones is a great fighter, but like, we praise him so much and we like idolize him for some reason, and it's just so weird because it's like we do not give Tom Aspinall the same respect that we do Jon Jones. And I get it. Jon Jones has had a long career and he's had a legacy and done some amazing things in the UFC. I get that. But the fact that we're not talking about Tom Aspinall, the interim champion, defending interim champion, finish Sergey Pavlovich, the guy at the time who was this scary power force who knocked out Derek Lewis, knocked out Tai Tuivasa, and then Tom Aspinall beats Curtis Blades badly, and then also beats Volkov. Like, these are legit top heavyweights. They're not. Sergey Pavlovich and Curtis Blades and Volkov make, in my opinion, Cyril Gane and Stipe Miocic look like they do not belong in the UFC. I'm being honest. Stipe is ranked 8th in the heavyweight division. He's only ranked there because, you know, they had to sell a fight. If we're going to be honest, he hasn't fought in 4 years. He shouldn't be ranked. He shouldn't be ranked. I don't know if Stipe could beat anybody in the top 10 in the heavyweight division. I really don't think so. I think Jon Jones, yes, he's a good fighter, but in the heavyweight division, he's getting beat by Tom Aspinall, and that's just a fact. I think Volkov would legit give Jon Jones a challenge. Yes, the grappling would be a problem, but Volkov's striking and his distance management has gotten better. He's won his last 5 fights. I think he could give Jon Jones a serious problem. I think Curtis Blades would give Jon Jones a serious problem. I think Sergey Pavlovich would give Jon Jones a serious problem. I don't think Jon Jones in the heavyweight division is what we are praising him to be. Like, yes, it was cool. He went to the heavyweight division. He beat Cyril Gane. Impressive. He beat Stipe. Okay. But he's not beating Tom Aspinall, so it doesn't matter. And I just want to see him retire. And Joe Rogan is a casual. I like watching the UFC fights now without the commentary. I can't stand Joe Rogan anymore. Commentary. He's hurt. Oh my God, he's in the co-main event, which in the next video, that's what we're going to talk about. In the co-main event, Charles Oliveira dominates Michael Chandler. In the 5th round, there's a minute where Michael Chandler is hitting Charles Oliveira in the back of the head 20 times. And Joe Rogan's like, he's hurt. Could he finish him? Oh my God, Michael Chandler could win this. You're like, bro, quit spasming. What are you doing? Michael Chandler is not going to win this fight. There was no part in that fight where you're like, oh, Chandler might win this. Nope. It was just like, oh, Chandler's more illegal shots on Oliveira. Oh, yeah. Oh, Oliveira's on his back. Illegal shots. Eye pokes. Nut grabbing. I mean, God, I can't stand listening to Joe Rogan commentate anymore on a UFC fight. This was my breakdown of the Jon Jones versus Stipe fight. Jon Jones needs to retire. Tom Aspinall is the undisputed heavyweight champion now, baby. Now we're going to actually get some movement in the heavyweight division, and we're not going to get any more holdups. So thank you so much for watching. Comment what you thought about the fight, what you think about Joe Rogan commentating, and about Tom Aspinall being the undisputed heavyweight champion now. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next video.